Here's the story of how I turned about $1.5 million into $0. Legitimately $0. We have to wind back a little bit to understand how this all happened and how I've gotten to the place where I am now, and to understand where we're going from here. But basically, to start it off, my name's Ben. I am 23 years old. I turn 24 next week, actually. And about a year and a half ago now, I got into crypto. Prior to getting into crypto, I had started a marketing agency, which I had ran successfully for about 3.5, 4 years. I started to have my initial success with that maybe when I was 19 or 20, somewhere in there. And, I just remember basically after high school, I graduated and I tried to play professional baseball, and I was delivering food. And I went from delivering food to eventually moving back home and realizing that my dreams of playing baseball weren't gonna pan out probably. I just wasn't good enough. Didn't have the talent. So I moved home and just was kind of run of the muck, 18, 19-year-old, and felt really down, no confidence. And so I got into things like bodybuilding. I got into kind of trying to learn online business stuff, doing a lot of that through Twitter and YouTube, and came upon an idea of starting like a TikTok clipping agency, that kind of thing. And I was pretty early in that. That's around 2021, 2022. And so we started doing that. I started doing that for podcasts where, I would approach them and I'd say, hey, we can help you get so many views and bring subscribers to your show, whatever. And eventually that turned into working with doctors, churches, authors, all these different things. And so, I was able to build a nice business for myself there with that. And over time, I remember getting my first client, and then within 6 months, I decided to move on to Mexico actually, initially, and start living a more adventurous lifestyle. So I moved to Latin America, and I lived there actually for the last 3.5 or 4 years now, just traveling from city to city. I never lived in the same city for longer than 2 months. Prior to going to Mexico that first time, I had never left the United States. I'm from Ohio, and I never left the United States, so I just really wanted adventure. So somewhere along those lines, like I said, about a year and a half ago, so I was already, pretty deep into the business. The business had been doing well, and, especially actually the first year and a half did very well. I remember our biggest revenue month was, we got our first client. I got my first client in about February of, I think, 2022 it was, maybe 2021. And then by December of that year, we had our biggest revenue month ever, which was about $51,000. And that was the biggest month we ever had, actually. And that business went on all the way till this year, which is 2025, this year's 2026, but last year was 2025. It went until about October of last year. And so, our biggest month was the very beginning. And we had higher months and sustained higher after that, but it was kind of funny how that worked and how we topped out very fast. Anyways, to continue on with this story, about a year and a half ago, I was, I've always been kind of active on Twitter, and I had seen a guy who was just saying, crypto's so crazy right now, and he was saying, oh, get in my group, right? So I got in this random guy's group on Twitter, funny enough, and I got a few of my friends to go in on it with me, and this guy was charging way too much. He charged $12,000 actually to get into the group. So we split it 3 ways, and I was like, look guys, crypto's going crazy. I didn't know that much overall, especially with the kind of meme coins, degenerate stuff that these guys were doing, but it looked like it could be pretty, crazy. So joined that and instantly started loading up. Luckily I had my business, which was cash flowing quite a bit of money. I instantly just started loading up quite a bit of money into crypto. So, I was putting in about $10,000 of money, wiring it in from my bank account a week at the time. And at the time I'm 22 years old doing this. So crazy. And looking back now, and as we go further into this video, start to understand that I've learned so much, and I still am learning so much, but I just laugh at like how financially irresponsible I've been over the last 2-3 years, especially, you know. So anyways, to continue on, I was wiring in a lot of money, and I had my first big win where I turned like quite a bit of money into quite a bit more money. But the funny thing is that something funny about me was I was very good at buying and very good at like being on top of these things and getting into things low and, you know, let them go high, but I was not really selling or taking profit. And this would come back to bite me later on. And so, yeah, you know, getting into things, and for a while there, if you have any knowledge of crypto, the market was pretty up and up, stable and bull runish for quite a bit of time there. You know, some small drawdowns, but we're talking, this is like the last year of Biden being in office. And then when I really had my big kind of time was basically, you know, the last year of Biden in office. And then what happens is Biden, it's the summer before the election, right? And everything had cooled off in crypto. I had actually round tripped pretty much everything that I had made, and I had forgot about crypto. And I was just like focusing on business again. And I'm like, look, I didn't make money in crypto, whatever, I'm done. I had round tripped about, at this point, I had bought three main coins actually, where I had, you know, seen really big profits, but I didn't take any profits. So I had seen on one coin about $80,000 of profit potential, another coin about 100,000, and then another coin about 40,000. So quite a bit of money, quite a bit of profit that I could have taken, where I just didn't, because I was stubborn and greedy. And so didn't take that profit, and it just fizzled out, and I just was like, whatever, sunk cost fallacy, it's done. You know, I was a disaster, but I was so stressed constantly. I just got to let it go and focus back on my business. And at the time, I still had the business going, so I was like, look, you know, it's not the end of the world. The business is still making money, so, you know, I don't have to be so crazy stressed about it, right? I still got money coming in monthly, and this was a problem for me, because I started to look at crypto as completely like funny money. Because I'm like, well, I'm making money from this. I got my business. It's been going 3-4 years at this point. I don't need to worry about it. But I wish I would have known. So basically, you know, that summer happened. Everything was a disaster. I didn't care. And then right around when Donald Trump got elected, during the elections, I was in India, funny enough, on a trip. So I was completely tapped out of it. No idea. But pretty much the day after Donald Trump got elected, everything went nuts as far as crypto went. Like everything went just vertical and triggered a massive kind of pump. And so, you know, I started to, at first I didn't really care, but then I started to see, and people started texting me about things that I had been in previously that I had just forgot about. Specifically, there's this coin called Ski Mask Dog at the time. And that coin is the bane of me, and the bane of my existence within crypto, basically. So what happened is that coin, some influencers started talking about it, and it was at $1 million market cap, and this was the one that I had missed out on $80,000 on, and I had just held it. I had forgot about it. And it went from like about $1 million market cap to, it had one of the biggest crypto influencer guys talking about it, and there was a government representative in the United States buying it, and it went 335x from there, and I was one of the top holders of it. So, you know, and this all happened from the time Donald Trump got elected, which is like early November, till January of the start of 2025, I guess. And yeah, basically it went from, my position on it went from being worth like, I don't know, $5,000 or something, $1,000, something, like $5,000 to being about $1.1 million in value. And it was liquid too. It was pretty liquid coin, because, you know, a lot of these crypto stories you'll hear a guy and it's some Solana coin that has like no liquidity whatsoever. But yeah, it was $335 million market cap, and it had about 10 to 15, maybe $20 million liquid. I know someone took like 2 to 3 mil out personally, and themselves. And so it was liquid enough to actually exit. And I remember, it was right around Christmas when it actually, in December, early December till Christmas, when it was actually like in the million territory of my value of it. And at the same time, I had $150,000 in other positions or so. And I remember being like, at first, this is how, and first I just want to talk you guys through these stories, because if I try to insert lessons into this now, then it's just going to get all messed up. I'll kind of insert my lessons later. I just want to tell you through what happened actually. I remember I had like 1.2 million dollars of crypto. I'm looking at my wallets, and I can even throw a screenshot up of my wallet, and it would probably be about like $1 million. But and I was like, well, after tax, it's only gonna be $700,000 or something because of short-term capital gains, or $650,000. And so, $650,000 won't even change my life. Like the business did 400 or 500,000 last year, and I was paying myself 15, 20 grand a month. So it won't even change my life. So I'm just gonna wait till it gets to be 2 to 3 million. So that was where I was thinking of, was like, and you can ask my friends, like, or some of my friends, that I was literally just saying like, no, I'm not going to sell, like that won't do anything for me. I want $3 million or $2 million or $10 million. Just ridiculous amounts of money was what I was like saying was I was going to sell. In reality, I was probably never going to sell. It was just a dopamine young kid who just hit the lottery basically and didn't accept the ticket. And would not accept the ticket no matter what happened. I wasn't going to accept the ticket because, well, I got issues, right? So basically, it was up to 1.1, 1.2 mil, and then starts to go down. Mid to late December, there was a Fed meeting with Jerome Powell. I won't bore you, but Ethereum started to kind of go down a little bit, and then everything started to go down. But my kind of worth in crypto stayed up around $700,000 to $800,000 for a while there. But what happens is now I had this idea of like over $1 million, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to sell until it gets back to being worth over $1 million. Then I'm going to sell. But basically, after that little tiny slot there from late November, early December to early mid-December, never went back above $1 million. But it kind of slowly went back down. Everything did, but very slowly. And this is what's happened over the last year and a half or so now, is basically I just watched that ski mask dog coin without ever taking any profit. Not a single dime of profit. Slowly go down, all the way back down to where it is now. Whatever, don't even think about it anymore too much. And also, I had in the time after that, over the summer, I made some trades on another thing, and I had actually turned like $3,000 into $300,000. Ended up watching that go all the way back down to $10,000 or so, after turning in $300,000, which was pretty liquid, $300,000 as well. And so, really just watched all of those kind of gains I made in this money, which was real money, but kind of fake money, right? Because I never actually saw it in anything I did. I watched those all evaporate, and watched myself evaporate too. I mean, so in this process what happens is my brain gets completely destroyed basically, because I lose all respect for any kind of hard work, any kind of money at all. Like, with the business, we were doing $1,500 to $3,000 a month packages for clients, right? And I just lost any kind of motivation to care about a $1,500 a month client package for marketing which I also didn't like, which I had gotten into purely, if you know, from the beginning of the story, you can kind of tell I got into it purely to have this freedom to travel and live on my own terms. I've always wanted to live on my own terms. And so I didn't care about the marketing anymore. And so what happened was, well, crypto started going down, and the marketing started going down. The agency that I had worked so hard to build for that first year and a half or 2 years started going down, and my bank account was also going down. But I was kept thinking, okay, well, it's going to go back up. You know, everything's going to be fine, and it wasn't. So, you know, everything started going down, and I've still been traveling at this point, and I was still living in Latin America, living in a lot in Peru, living in Argentina and Mexico, and surfing in Mexico, Brazil, obviously, can't you tell? And, you know, this was some of the darkest times of my life, because I also, you know, another good interesting thing with this is I had a massive nicotine addiction, so massive like Zyn addiction. And I'm talking, you know, maybe 2 tins a day, which is quite a bit of Zyn, and you know, not eating healthily very much. I didn't cook for about 4 years. From the time I moved to Latin America, I never cooked a meal. I just went out to eat every single meal. And so I lost my health, which was, you know, when I started my business, that was kind of a big thing for me. Like I said, I did the bodybuilding, and I had lost my health. I had lost my, you know, I'd gone completely into an addiction. Even this year in 2025, not this year, but last year, in 2025, I got really into gambling. And it wasn't so bad as far as me losing money. I did lose quite a bit of money in online gambling. Like, I never got into sports gambling. I played online casino, slots, blackjack, but it was even more the time sink of gambling, because my dopamine receptors were so messed up and have been so messed up for so long that I would watch gambling videos on YouTube. And I would watch, like, if you've ever seen Vegas Matt, he's super famous. And nothing against Vegas Matt, he's a funny dude, right? And all their kind of little group. But they put out an hour-long video basically every single day. Well, they do put it out every day. And I would watch that video. I would watch every single video. I was in the top, I could flash it up on screen, top 0.2% of viewers in 2025. And that's without even I didn't watch in November. I stopped watching in November, late October, completely. But prior to that, I had been in the top 0.2% of viewers, and I was also watching other gambling channels. I was spending about 2 to 3 hours a day just watching gambling YouTube videos. I wouldn't get out of bed. When I woke up in the morning, I would wake up, and for a while before that, it was check the crypto and just lay in bed and look at crypto stuff all day. And then it was wake up, pop in some nicotine, watch gambling videos, and look at the crypto, and kind of like just go back and forth between the two. And then eventually get out of bed and go eat some crap from a restaurant or from any thing I could find, drink a coffee with a ridiculous amount of caffeine, usually like a cold brew, and then, you know, maybe eventually make my way to the gym. I did keep going to the gym, which is good. Like, I didn't gain a ton of weight or anything, but, you know, I slowly kind of devoured myself into not a good thing. You know, like I said, the business started going down, the crypto was going down. At some point, the crypto, and especially in the last months, you know, completely basically became non-existent. It went from that $300,000 turned into $10,000. I had to sell that to cover any bills that I had, which I ended up taking a lot of losses on that. And then the ski mask dog thing and any other gains I had completely got wiped out. I actually now would be losing money on crypto compared to what I put in. So I went from putting in, you know, maybe 30, 40, 50, some thousands of dollars, some tens of thousands of dollars, and turning it into like over $1.5 million to now losing money on the whole deal. And and in the process, I lost my business. Basically about and I didn't lose my business even to my knowledge. Basically what happened was with that, this was just how much of a disaster I was of a person. The business, we had always had clients, and we had clients till the very end. We actually ended up like firing the clients. Like, people wanted to work with us still, but I was paying out employees without even knowing how much money the business was making. And then one day I'm like, that's weird. Like, I saw my bank statement, which I hadn't been looking at bank statements, and we spent like $10,000 more, $15,000 more than we actually made this month. I was like, that's weird. And then I start looking at the months before that. I'm like, oh, we've been doing that for like 4 months, and the business bank account has no money in it anymore. I can't pay myself. And so basically we were just operating at a loss, and I was just spending money I didn't even have on the business. And I wasn't working on it at all. I didn't think about it. I didn't care about it. I was sickened to work and work on it, honestly. And this had been a problem for a while with that business after that first year, because I had just done it purely for financial reasons. Mainly, I had found some enjoyment in it at some points because I had found a way to work with clients that I was interested in working with and talking to. But for the most part, it was repulsive for me to work on that business because I didn't believe in what I was doing. I didn't care. I was like, we were making videos, helping people make videos for TikTok and Instagram, which it can be useful for their business. But to me, I was just like, I don't think TikTok and Instagram and short form videos are like a net positive for society in a lot of ways. I think that it's, hurting a lot of people. And so, I never could like get really into it and get really interested in it. So yeah, that business basically, I was like, well, I'm not interested in it. I'm losing money, and the business bank account doesn't have much money left in it. So either what I could do is fire all the employees that I have, which I didn't want to do. Like, I had I made some great relationships, and I always try to pay people very fairly, but I really couldn't pay people anymore. I just made myself broke by paying people so much and not paying attention to how much we were making. And also, it was there were some issues in that too, where people were being paid to do jobs that they just weren't doing, and they weren't doing a good job at, especially like they were paid to be the client success manager. And why were we losing so many clients every single month? And they were paid to be getting us more clients, and we were never getting more clients. So it was just a big problem. We were churning constantly, and not gaining enough clients. And it was not a great business. It was a good cash flowing business, especially the first few years, but it wasn't a good long-term thing. And I didn't recognize that at the time. So I had to make a hard decision with that and just say, okay, well, I'm not interested in it. I'm not making money from it. I'm losing money, and I don't want this to be the rest of my life. I don't want this to be my story of my life, is that I made a marketing agency that I wasn't that interested in just so that I could travel and kind of like live a lifestyle, right? That's not a depth kind of life. So I decided to shut it down. I was in Peru when I shut it down, and it felt very weird because it was something that I had been doing for 4 years, and also it was my only form of income. It was my only cash flow. So yeah, I shut it down, and still massively addicted to nicotine, and completely messed up while shutting it down. Obviously, completely addicted to gambling stuff. And then I went to Brazil for about a month and a half, and I went to Rio. And being in Rio during that time was some of the loneliest times of my entire life, because, well, I couldn't speak Portuguese, and I would try to, but I just could not speak Portuguese yet. And so when you're in a country and I didn't know anyone in the country, not a singular person. I was trying to make friends, but it takes a little bit of time to make some friends. And so I didn't know anyone, and I was also not feeling good enough to like kind of really, I was trying to meet people, but I wasn't feeling good enough about myself in that moment to really put myself out there a lot of the time. And I don't go out and drink or anything like that, so that makes it a little bit difficult too. But yeah, I couldn't speak Portuguese, and I didn't make any friends. I wasn't feeling happy. I wasn't feeling good. And so I was just very lonely when I was there, and I had just closed the business. And I also, through all of this, there's so many different things I could go into, but there's a big part of it where I felt a lot of shame and embarrassment. I still do to this day about this, because I thought I gave away a once in a lifetime opportunity in a lot of ways. And I don't want that to be said in the once in a lifetime opportunity, just like it's basically like a little lottery is what I hit, right? Like I said earlier, I'm completely confident in myself that I can, and I wouldn't say completely confident, but I have to believe now, I have to believe that my story doesn't end at me losing a ton of money in crypto and losing my business, right? As far as financials go now, times are not great, but like they're still decent enough, and I have skills, and I've built up skills and experiences that make me into someone who has valuable things to offer, I think, and I hope. And if I could sit here and I could wallow and I could believe, and I did for months, I could sit there and believe and kick myself and think, you idiot, your life's over, it's all over, you're a piece of trash, and you fucked away your whole life, and excuse my cursing there. Or I could tell myself, look, that is something that not many people experience, and when I was younger, I decided I wanted to experience a life that not many people would experience, and have cool experiences and be able to write a book someday. And so that's just a part of your story, and you got a whole bigger story, and you're just getting started with it, and it's early on. And and don't let that be my story. Don't let that be what defines me as a person, and learn from these things and make expensive mistakes like that, and make big lessons learned, and hopefully be able to understand more about myself through that. And I definitely can understand a lot more about myself through this whole process. So I was in Brazil, business shut down, and the crypto was still just going down, 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 and still addicted to nicotine. Eventually, after about a month in Brazil or so, I came back to Ohio, and basically I've been in Ohio ever since, honestly. And the first few months in Ohio, it was probably October when I got back or so, maybe October, and then November. And October and November were really rough months still, because I was still fully on the crypto and just watching it go down, and I was still gambling on the crypto too, completely. I was still I had some money left, and so I was throwing it at different basic gamble meme coin things, sitting on my laptop all day, just dialed in, looking for the next big thing. And then, still I would make and lose 10 grand within a couple hours. I would somehow turn $1,000 into $15,000, and then be greedy and slowly watch it go all the way back down to being now worth less than $1,000 and being worth $500. And then you're instantly just filled with anger, and you're pissed off, and your dopamine's completely shot. And it's why do I want to do anything? What's the point? Why am I gonna go work on something when I can make this much money doing this? So I did that, and still addicted to nicotine. And eventually, basically over these last 2 months, started in December, and now we're in February. Well, it's February 1st right now. And in December and January were 2 months of ripping everything, and in late November, ripping everything out of me that's been so messed up for so long, and trying to figure out how I can go on in my life while understanding that I can't change the past. And so a lot of it was quitting nicotine, just because nicotine was such a high dopamine thing for me, and I was using that to manufacture dopamine because I was at such a naturally low dopamine state. So it was quitting nicotine, quitting the gambling videos, deleting all the social medias off my phone, and getting all of that, never watching porn, never watching any of that stuff, and just trying to get into healthier routines. And a lot of it was just focusing on my health overall and diving back into my health, starting to actually like cook again and to feed myself healthy things and be focused on what I'm eating, what I'm doing, the kind of energy I'm putting in and putting out, how I care about people and treat people and my relationships. So a lot of it was refocusing on that center and the health, especially going back to the gym and starting to do cardio again. I hadn't done cardio for years, doing cardio, doing my daily trainings, and I started lifting heavy again. I started squatting, I started doing overhead press, and not in the sense, not for any reason of like I'm trying to be a bodybuilder or because I'm trying to necessarily be a power lifter. I don't really care about that. The idea is lifting heavier now again in a way where I'm not going to injure myself. So I never go less than 3 reps usually, but lifting heavier to push myself out of my comfort zone because everything was comfortable and I was a consumer and I was lazy and I just had to go get my hit of dopamine from my phone. And so it's been ripping that out of myself and reprogramming that and deciding and looking at who I am and what I've turned myself into, and understanding that I have turned myself into a consumer and I've turned myself into someone who is, I wouldn't find them cool or interesting except for the fact that I've gone and experienced some things and done some things. I wouldn't find myself like, if I watched myself on a daily basis every day of the year, I would be like, you kind of suck, man. You just kind of sit there and watch YouTube and then you watch Instagram and then you scroll on, the crypto stuff and watch all these different things, and then you kind of half-ass it at the gym. You're not really pushing for anything. You don't have any real interests. A lot of the hobbies you have simply because they're supposed to be cool and you feel like you're supposed to do them. Like that's why I got into surfing originally, just being kind of like a show offer kind of person, right? And so I realized that that's not what I want to be in life, and I start to just thinking like, okay, what can I do? How can I start here? And so, over the last few months, I got back into the health. I got back into the gym more. I started doing painting. You can see one of the paintings I've been working on there, and then I got a banjo behind me. I started learning to play the banjo, and I actually did a little YouTube channel where I'm doing like every day, just recording my progress with that. I like the banjo especially too because it's very challenging, and learning an instrument's very challenging, and also it's kind of hard to do a lot more outdoor stuff right now. It's very cold in Ohio in the winter, so it's good to be able to kind of practice indoor and practice creative things where I'm legitimately creating. I'm not consuming, I'm just creating and doing these things. And so that's what I like, and that's what I've been getting into is this creative process, and also trying to start to write. Obviously I'm not perfect with all of these things. Trying to learn health. One thing I understood about myself was for the last 4 or 5 years, everything that I've learned has been tips. It's been very surface level, tip of the iceberg kind of stuff. But I want to understand things on the deepest level. I want to understand them. I think it's called first principles. And so what I started to do is, and I don't love GPT by any means or like AI too much. Like a lot of this too was a pressure of feeling like everything is just can be created by AI, and who am I, right? Who am I, not AI? That's corny. But anyway, so I was like, I've always been into health. Like I said, I'm into health. I wanted to understand how the body works and a little bit more about like, say the chemistry or about our enzymes and stuff like this. So I started off with metabolism, and every day I just kind of had ChatGPT give me like a 20 to 30 minute lesson where I'm learning the chemistry. So now I kind of can understand and tell you how the fat metabolism versus glucose metabolism works, and what's going on with ATP and this ATP synthase and pyruvate and lactate and all of this stuff, glucose, whatever. So I started to learn that, and I just wanted to start understanding this on a deeper level. And now I'm doing similar things with like art and understanding, color and contrast and shadow, and kind of trying to understand things on a level of why, in the simplest level and the deepest level, not just understanding like, oh, if you mix this color with this color, then it makes a nice color and you should just paint with that. Or like if you lift, weights like this, it gives you more of a pump. It's like, okay, but why? And I wanted to understand why. I wanted to get to deeper levels of everything. And I think that that's a good place to start for me, is because if you don't care about anything deeply and everything surface level, your whole life becomes surface level, then you stop being interested in anything, you stop caring about anything, you're just kind of coasting from day to day and nothing's important. And that could be okay, but if nothing's important to you, then it's hard to really have any kind of purpose in a day or a mission. And I haven't had purpose or mission in my days for a long, long period of time. So this video is going very long, obviously, and I wanted to kind of inject some things I've learned and lessons and all of that. And I think a lot of it is just, and I'm still in this and I'm still struggling with this, right? Right now, where I'm at and where I'm going from here is like, I'm trying to kind of figure out what this next path is for me and what this next step is for me and where my skill sets and value and experience kind of can help push things. So I've built an app. I tried to learn to like vibe code, so I built an app with that, which is like a social app, I guess, social communication app, helping people be better at communicating. And then and that's another part to it, like why I started the banjo channel, was I wanted to get better at talking on camera. And I feel like this is amalgamation of all of that, because this video is kind of important to me as far as getting it out there for myself, even if it doesn't get seen by anyone. So I started that app, and I learned vibe code. I've been learning about other stuff, and then I know a lot of kind of a decent bit of marketing stuff, and so I'm looking to help. I'm kind of like talking to a few people as far as consulting kind of stuff goes with that, and just figuring out what that looks like for me, because right now I haven't had any money being paid to me for a long time, basically, and I'm okay with that. I had a decent bit of savings. It's very slim now, I guess, and I got some expenses again, so that's an interesting thing, and my back's not against the wall, but it's close to the wall, and trying to figure out how to best move forward without doing it from a place of purely wanting money, or doing it from a place of purely wanting money or needing money, I guess, right? I want it to be from a place of purpose, and I think that's really important for me. And also, for everyone it's different. If I had kids and I had a wife or something like that and a lot more responsibility, it would be a different kind of game, and this is a young man's game, I guess, I'm playing right now. But I play with the kind of hand I have, right? And so there's a thing where on one hand, if you have the wife and kids, you got a lot more responsibility, you got a lot more to handle, which is harder. But hard's not bad, and that's a good lesson I've learned. Hard's not bad. For so long, hard has been the absolute bane of me, where I'm like, I just do anything to avoid a hard life. In hard things, doing hard things, right? Working out hard, hard conversations, just anything that required any kind of difficulty, cooking or cleaning. And that didn't make me into a better person at any means. That just made me kind of soft and comfortable. And being soft and comfortable isn't great. I didn't feel any better. And so yeah, hard isn't bad. Hard can be good too, if it's in the right way. But anyways, I'm trying to find the path forward from here. And I think that I want to create whatever it is I want to create. I want to be creative, and I want to be doing things that are purposeful and not just only focused on an end product or an end result, but focused on doing things well and doing good. And so we'll see what that looks like. There's so much more to go into. Like I said, I traveled for 3-4 years and I lived in a ton of different countries, and I've had a lot of crazy experiences in that time. And I built the business for myself from nothing to doing that $50,000 or so. And I turned that money in crypto from, a little bit, decent bit of money to quite a bit of money. I guess some would say generational wealth. And then I lost it all, and I lost the business. And funny enough, I guess I could say I'm happier than I've been in that whole time in a lot of ways. And I feel more fulfilled because for the first time since maybe I was a child, I wake up every day and I'm actually energized and excited to get out of bed. And I'm interested in my day. And I don't feel like getting up is like a chore, right? Where I gotta get up. It's like I get to get up and I have to focus on things. And I finally can focus on things. I feel relieved from the nicotine, finally. Like that it's kept me down for so long. And these addictions that I've had have kept me down for so long. And I feel like I've kind of started to overcome them. And obviously those can creep back up at any time. Addiction is not something where you're just kind of done with it forever. You can hop back on it anytime. But I feel like I've been able to figure out things and overcome those addictions, and they help me to be able to overcome other addictions. And so I haven't replaced those addictions with negative things. I've started to, a lot of times it's like they'll quit the booze and start to smoking the cigs. But I haven't done that. I haven't quit the Zyn and other stuff and started to scroll the phone or anything like that. I've quit the Zins and I've started cardio, and I've started playing the banjo, doing painting. I've started learning. I've started, talking to people more and being around others and understanding the importance of community. And I want to make more videos kind of like this and talking through other parts of my experience and what's happened. But hopefully this first video gives a broad overview of how things went down, and how I lost all that money, and then, how I'm happier now and more fulfilled now. So hope you enjoyed. Like I said, my name's Ben. I am 23, turning 24, and yeah, see you on the next one. Thanks, guys.